there's a lot. What do you want to know? I mean, there's Dan White as a guy who became city supervisor once they broke up San Francisco into different districts. It enabled Harvey Milk to win and control Castro and outside the Castro a little bit. Dan White was from a very conservative Catholic white majority district, and I think he was very charming and did very well in his small community, and they really wanted him to be the hope to bring San Francisco back to what it was, the morality that it had and the value system that it was founded on. And there was no way that was going to happen. It was an impossibility. You know, things change. That's just the nature of life, you know. And the gay and lesbian movement was really taking off at the time, the hippie movement at the same time. And Dan was kind of being left behind. I think if he had the wherewithal and if he had the political skills and savvy to be able to realize that, hey, this wasn't his time at this moment, that this was going to hit a peak and kind of, you know, fall off into the mainstream, and that he would have his time and just look for his opportunity, I think it would have been much better for him and his community and what he wanted to do. But he didn't have the political skills. He just became very frustrated very quickly, you know, and he had a lot of pressure from the police department and fire department and all that.
You know, the way you're portraying him in the film, he's at points he's walking a very thin line of is it sanity? What is?
I don't think it's sanity. I think it's very human frustration. I don't think it's anything beyond that, you know? That's what we all look at, you know? When we hear about somebody doing something horrible, you see a black and white, low-res picture of them, and you look at the eyes immediately because you're looking for, it's natural, because you want to make sure if you see it again in the street that you steer away from it. The thing is some people don't have it. I think Dan White was as normal as you can possibly get and got to a place where he became so frustrated, he tried to resign, he tried to get out, and they wouldn't let him. And then Mayor Moscone wouldn't let him come back in with the pressure of the fire department and the police department wanting him to be in there. So he was in a horrible place. So I do understand on a human level. I understand wanting to embrace the only power that he could, and that's why he took the gun and, you know, cause and effect, you know, something tangible that he could hold on to. It's incredibly sad, incredibly pathetic. I don't agree with it, obviously, at all. But from a human point of view, I understand it.
Well, it's a great character to portray, is it not?
Thanks. It's a crazy character to play. I don't mean insane, but I mean it's very emotional because there's a lot of stuff going on, especially when you humanize it like that. You know, suddenly all these possibilities, you know. Is he latent? Probably not. What about the Twinkie defense? What about the sugar? What about his own frustrations? What about his relationship with his family, his relationship with the church, the baptism, the fact that he likes Harvey, the fact that Harvey didn't vote for his bill? You know, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's a very interesting story to be able to delve into.
There are a lot of these people who this movie is about are still alive, and they were participating in the filmmaking.
Yeah.
How did
Cleve Jones and yeah.
How did they respond to you?
Cleve saw me first, before I did anything, and he was very open about. He couldn't see me as Dan White. He just thought it was a major mistake. And then we did some stuff, and I came back a couple weeks later, and he was like, "You got to be kidding me!" He started crying. He started getting all welled up. The first thing he did, he looked at me and he goes, "Oh God, oh God, oh God!" And then he finally walked out of the room, which was the best compliment I could have gotten because, you know, Cleve knew him and he was around him and he was around Harvey. So, you know, it was good. They embraced it very much. They were extremely helpful. And it was more disconcerting for them than it was for me, you know, which was good for me because I knew I was on the right track. The more it creeped them out, the more, it did creep them out. The more uncanny they felt it was, the better it was for me because it gave me confidence.
You know, this is the second historical film you're making this year.
Mm-hmm.
Very different ones.
Mm-hmm.
How does this experience compare for you?
I don't really see the similarities between the two other than they're both political. You know, one's very minorly political and one's the biggest, you know, seat that you can have as a politician, you know, globally affecting. But you know, I don't, you know, I don't know. You know, the fact that they're both real people, the fact that we can go, you know, they are part of history, the fact that, you know, that it's going to be put on a DVD one day and that people will be able to go back on it and learn from it, you know, hopefully, regardless of pro, con, whatever. Here's a piece of history. Here's our take on it. You know, what I like about W is the fact that it's not just a leftist point of view, a hammering of this guy, which I know both of us feel politically, me and Oliver. But I think from a personal point of view, there were a lot of milestones that he hit that were very interesting and I think, you know, deserve a lot of respect on a personal level. But the more interesting story is how did this person become this and then make these decisions? You know, that's historic to me.
Well, this movie sort of does the same way, but with Harvey.
Yeah, with Harvey, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, Harvey he really instigated an incredible movement by knowing that it was very dangerous to speak up because people were very unused to, you know, they were threatened by gay society, thinking that it was going to take over. That's usually anybody's fear, is that it's going to become the majority. You know, what about us? Are we going to be left behind? But Harvey was willing to be persistent and say, look, everybody has a voice. This is my voice. I demand to be heard. That's what a democracy is built upon. And I realized that it may be a dangerous situation, but he was still willing to go there. And look at what his death did. You know, his death created a lot more than he did while he was in office, you know, which I think is great. And Cleve Jones and all these people went off to, you know, create the mall and the quilts, you know, and all that, you know, had a deep impact.
What did you think of Gus's filmmaking?
On this movie or on all movies?
This one.
I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was phenomenal. I watched this movie. I was so taken by it. I was so moved that I was part of it. I don't necessarily like, you know, that I'm, you know, the antagonist, but at the same time, it doesn't matter to me because it's about the movie. You know, there are very few movies I felt that about. You know, when I did No Country, that was, you know, when I did Flirting with Disaster, that was another one of those movies that I watched, and I go, I really love this film. I like that I'm a part of this film. Grateful. I think, you know, the thing with Gus is he changes from movie to movie. It depends on the story. So you look at this movie and then you look at Paranoid Park. They're made back to back almost, and yet it's almost looks like different filmmakers. That's what I love about Gus is he's constantly experimenting, constantly trying to find how he can better tell a story.
You know, what's really interesting about this film is also the civil rights aspect of the historical aspect of where we are right now.
Yeah.
You know, 30 years later, almost to the day.
Yeah, almost to the day.
There was another proposition that didn't go down.
Uh-huh.
So, and in a sense, this movie is very timely, is it not?
Very, very. And I'm watching the TV yesterday, and I'm watching, you know, these protests go on, and then it turns into somewhat of a riot, and there's violence that ensues, and you know, part of it is that's just another obstacle that the gay society and the gay movement has to deal with. I don't like it. I thought I was very surprised that was happening in California. I understand it in another state, maybe, but in California I was extremely surprised. And I was surprised by the demographic that voted yes on 8, which obviously the Mormon community, you know, whatever that is. But you know, the African Americans and the Latino community, the majority voted yes on 8. So and then the religious involvement, and that ties in and all that. So, you know, I mean, it's all based on fear, man. It's all based on fear. I'm not out to judge anybody. I can definitely put myself in different, you know, and see through people's, you know, perspective and all that, and understand their perspective, because that's basically my job, you know.